My sister accidentally sent me a voice memo that was meant for our mom. What I overheard about me was so shocking, it made me leave the very next morning with a plan she never saw coming. What if everything you thought you knew about your family, about your own sister, was a carefully constructed lie designed to keep you down? I found out the hard way when a single, accidental voice memo ripped away the facade, exposing a betrayal so deep, so calculating, it makes my blood run cold just thinking about it. You see, my own sister had been systematically trying to destroy my career, and my mother was in on it. So, I'm Anitra, and at 28, I thought I had my life figured out. I was a junior designer at a top firm in Chicago, killing it. My portfolio was growing, clients were asking for me by name, and I finally had my tiny but stylish Wicker Park apartment. Then, just 6 months later, the rug got pulled out from under me. The recession hit the luxury market like a freight train, and suddenly, the last hired were the first fired. My boss, Graham, praised my work to the high heavens, then handed me a severance package that wouldn't even cover 2 months of Chicago rent. 26 rejected job applications and half my savings later, I swallowed my pride and made the call. Moving back in with my parents in Maryland was supposed to be temporary. Just 3 months to regroup, you know? A pit stop before getting back on track. The 12-hour drive from Chicago felt like a slow retreat, each mile a step backward in a life I'd planned so meticulously. When I pulled into our familiar driveway, Mom practically tackled me, smelling of that same lavender perfume she'd worn my entire life. "Anitra, sweetie, you made it," she gushed. "Your father's grilling, and Jenna and the kids are so excited." Dad just gave a casual wave, like I'd been gone for a weekend, not 8 years. And then there was Jenna, my sister. Standing in the foyer, her perfect blonde hair absolutely flawless, even in the humid summer air. She took one look at me, and her laugh didn't quite reach her eyes. "Well, look what the economy dragged in," she said, pulling me into a stiff, almost awkward hug. "The prodigal designer returns." I forced a smile. "Good to see you too, Jen." Only my niece and nephew, Lillian and Mason, bouncing down the stairs with genuine excitement, offered any real warmth. That first greeting, though, it was a preview of the chill to come. Dinner that first night? It was a masterclass in how much I wasn't Jenna. Mom cooked all my favorites, but the conversation, naturally, revolved around my sister's real estate empire in Boston. "We just closed on a waterfront property last week," Jenna announced, cutting her chicken with surgical precision. $1.7 million. Tyler handled the negotiation brilliantly. Her husband, Tyler, gave a modest smile, but I saw him subtly puff out his chest. Dad beamed. "Nonsense, not every agent could close a deal that size." I just pushed my mashed potatoes around. "That's impressive," I managed. "I actually saw some job postings at design firms here in town. Morgan & Wells is looking for someone with commercial experience, like I have from the Riverside Hotel project." A flicker of something crossed Jenna's face. Alarm? So fast I almost missed it, quickly replaced by a bright, almost too bright smile. "Oh, but I thought you loved the Chicago design scene," she chirped. "Wouldn't taking a job here be settling?" Mom jumped in, her tone a little too gentle. "Well, I think it's smart to keep options open, but no rush, dear. You should take some time to decompress after your setback." The way she said setback made my layoff sound like a personal failing, not a brutal economic reality. And then I saw it, a quick, loaded glance exchanged between Mom and Jenna. That's when the familiar tension started to really creep back in. Growing up, we were always positioned as opposites. Jenna, the practical, rule-following charmer, me, the creative dreamer who questioned everything. She was homecoming queen, I was at an art installation. She got straight A's. I got A's in art and English and B's and C's everywhere else, which always seemed to be the focus. Later that night, unpacking in my old room, I found my childhood sketchbooks. Hours of room designs, furniture ideas, some of them actually formed the foundation of my design school portfolio. Flipping through them, I remembered the pure joy of creating, before career pressure and competition. Then a soft knock. Jenna. Standing there with 2 glasses of wine. "Peace offering," she said, handing me one. I know coming home isn't easy. For a moment, it felt like old times. Like the invisible barrier that had grown between us as adults might actually be shrinking. Your Chicago portfolio, she asked, pointing to the leather case. Can I see what you've been working on? I hesitated, but then, why not? As I showed her my projects, explaining concepts, challenges, I noticed something truly odd. Instead of her usual polite disinterest, Jenna was asking detailed questions, taking mental notes. When I showed her a sustainable commercial space concept that had won an industry mention, she lingered, studying the design elements with an intensity I'd never seen from her before. This is really good, Annie, she said, using my childhood nickname. Really innovative. It was the first genuine compliment she'd given my work in years. And despite the day, it warmed something inside me. Maybe this time back home could heal some old wounds. But then, as she left my room, I overheard her on the phone in the hallway. Her voice was low, but clear. No, she just got here. Yes, but I don't think. Listen, I need to make sure this works out like we discussed. An icy dread settled in my stomach. I tried to shake it off. Paranoid, I told myself. The stress of unemployment, of moving home. But falling asleep in my too small childhood bed, I couldn't shake the feeling. Beneath the surface of our family reunion, currents were moving. And I had no idea how quickly I was about to be pulled under. 2 weeks in, the initial awkwardness had settled into a suffocating routine. Mornings, Mom would grill me about job hunting, a mix of concern and what felt like judgment. Dad retreated to his workshop, escaping the simmering tension. Jenna, meanwhile, worked her real estate empire from the dining room, her professional voice echoing through the house. The first truly weird moment came when I walked into the kitchen and found Mom and Jenna huddled over coffee, whispering. They snapped apart the second they saw me. Morning, I said, reaching for a mug. What were you two whispering about? Mom said, a little too quickly, just Mason's birthday party plans. I blinked. His birthday's in November. Jenna let out this high, unnatural laugh. Oh, we book venues months in advance. The good ones fill up fast. I nodded, unconvinced, but let it go. Maybe I was being oversensitive. Then, out of the blue, my old classmate Maya texted me. Heard you're back. My boss at Riverfront Designs is looking for someone with big city experience. Interested in an interview. My heart leaped. Riverfront was the prestigious firm in the area, handling luxury homes and boutique hotels. I practically flew downstairs to share the good news. I found Mom and Jenna in the living room, flipping through old photo albums. Great news, I announced. Maya just texted. I have an interview at Riverfront next week. Mom's face went carefully neutral. Oh, that's nice, dear. But isn't Riverfront rather small compared to your Chicago firm? I explained how much they'd expanded, the major projects they handled. It's a really good opportunity. Jenna's reaction was even stranger. Her smile looked plastered on, her eyes starting to mom. That's wonderful. Truly. Though, I thought you wanted a break before jumping back in. I stared at her, confused. I never said that. I've been applying since I got here. Of course you have, Jenna said smoothly. I just want to make sure you're not settling for the first thing that comes along out of desperation. The word hit me like a slap. My cheeks flushed. I'm not desperate. Riverfront is a legitimate opportunity. I'm sure it is, she said, her tone dripping with the exact opposite meaning. Well, good luck. I retreated upstairs, fuming. Their lukewarm response, the loaded words. I tried to focus on interview prep, but as I updated my portfolio, I heard Jenna's voice drifting up from downstairs. Urgent. Indistinct at first, then I caught a phrase. We need to make sure she doesn't get it. My blood ran cold. I crept to the stairwell. You know how she is when she gets fixated on something? Jenna was saying. Was she talking about me? About my job? I couldn't hear Mom's reply, but Jenna continued, I know, but trust me, it's for the best. She'll thank us later. My mind reeled. Was I misinterpreting? Could my own sister really be trying to sabotage me? It felt insane, even for our competitive relationship. But the seed of doubt, once planted, began to sprout. Over the next few days, I started noticing patterns I'd have dismissed before. The internet mysteriously slowed to a crawl when I needed to update my portfolio website. Jenna would spontaneously suggest a family outing exactly when I scheduled practice video calls. And whenever I mentioned projects I planned to highlight, she'd make subtly undermining comments about how regional clients might find those concepts too urban. The gaslighting hit its peak during family movie night. A romantic comedy was on, about a woman who loses her city job and moves home. Remind you of anyone? Jenna quipped, nudging Mom. It's a common story arc, I replied, trying to keep my voice even. Sure, but most people bounce back faster, Jenna pressed. She seems a bit like you, living in a fantasy world about her talents. The room went silent. Even Tyler looked uncomfortable. Jenna, Mom warned. What? Jenna said innocently. I'm just saying, Anitra's always had big dreams. Nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you have to face reality about where your skills actually are. My hands trembled, setting down my popcorn. And what reality should I be facing exactly? Girls, Mom interjected, let's just enjoy the movie. No, I insisted. I want to hear what Jenna thinks my reality should be. She waved a dismissive hand. Don't be so sensitive. I was just making conversation. You know how Jenna jokes, Mom added, as if that explained and excused everything. I stood up. I'm going to bed. Enjoy the rest of the movie. Upstairs, I paced. Was I being overly sensitive, as they suggested? Or was something far more calculated happening? That night, I made a decision that went against my trusting nature. I activated the voice memo app on my phone, setting it to record during family conversations. A sanity check, I told myself. To ensure I wasn't just misinterpreting things through my own insecurity. Little did I know, that decision was about to reveal far more than I was prepared to discover. The morning of my riverfront interview dawned bright and clear. I'd spent days prepping, and despite the weird vibe with Jenna, I actually felt ready. This was it. My fresh start. I got up early, carefully doing my makeup, styling my hair into a professional updo. I put on my navy blue interview suit, the lucky one that landed me the Chicago job, and my grandmother's silver bracelet. Just as I was putting on my earrings, my phone chimed. A notification. A voice memo. From Jenna. My first thought? An olive branch. Maybe a good luck message before my big interview. I tapped play, holding the phone to my ear. And then I heard it. Mom, I need to talk to you about Anitra's interview today. Jenna's voice. Clear, yes, but with a tone I'd never heard from her. Hard. Calculating. My mascara wand froze, halfway to my eye. This wasn't for me. She'd accidentally sent it to the wrong person. Stop listening, a voice screamed in my head. This is private, but then I heard my name again, and something in Jenna's tone made it impossible to turn off. I called Riverfront yesterday, Jenna continued, chillingly calm. Spoke to someone in HR. I told them I was a former colleague from Chicago with concerns about her work ethic. Suggested they might want to verify her references more thoroughly. My hands started shaking. The mascara wand clattered to the counter. Mom, we can't let her get established here. You know what Dad said about possibly helping her start her own small design business if the job search doesn't pan out? Can you imagine? After I've worked so hard to be the successful one in the family. I heard Mom's muffled response. Jenna replied, sounding anything but remorseful. Of course, I feel bad. But remember that business plan she created in her final year of design school, the one for the sustainable interior design consultancy. My blood ran cold. Well, I took that concept when she left it on her laptop during Christmas break. Those ideas became the foundation for the eco-friendly property division that made my real estate business stand out in Boston. My knees buckled. I sank onto the edge of my bed. That sustainable design concept? It was my passion project. Months of work. I'd seen similarities in Jenna's business, but convinced myself it was coincidence or unconscious influence. The truth was far darker. The truth is, Jenna's voice dropped lower. I've always been jealous of her talent. She makes everything look effortless. Do you know how hard I have to work for every client, every sale? She sketches something beautiful in minutes while I'm grinding away. It's not fair. A pause. Then, yes, I know she's struggling right now. That's why this is the perfect time to make sure she finds something more suitable. Something that won't put her in competition with me. Another pause. I was thinking we could introduce her to Rick, Tyler's friend from college. He's not particularly ambitious either. He wouldn't mind dating someone unsuccessful. The memo ended. For several minutes, I couldn't move. My body felt disconnected from my brain as the implications washed over me in nauseating waves. My own sister had actively sabotaged my career. My mother, complicit. They had discussed my failure as if it were a foregone conclusion, something to be managed, not a temporary setback to help me overcome. I rushed to the bathroom, barely making it before I was violently sick. Splashing cold water on my face, I stared at my reflection. Shell-shocked. Pale beneath my carefully applied makeup. I played the message again, needing to confirm I hadn't imagined it. Each word cut deeper the second time. The casual cruelty, the admission of theft, the ongoing conspiracy to keep me in my place. Worst of all was the revelation that Mom hadn't defended me. She had participated. Agreed. The two people I trusted most in the world had been actively working against me, possibly for years. My interview was in 90 minutes. Canceling wasn't an option. Not now. Not when I finally understood what I was up against. With mechanical movements, I fixed my makeup, covering the evidence of tears and shock. I straightened my suit, put on my professional mask, and walked downstairs. Mom was in the kitchen. Jenna sat at the table, typing. Both looked up. "You look nice, honey," Mom said. "Big day today. Want some breakfast before your interview?" Jenna asked, her smile not reaching her eyes. "Need to keep your strength up." The sheer normality of the scene was surreal. They had no idea what had just been revealed. No clue that everything had changed. "No thanks, I managed. I'll grab coffee on the way. Good luck today," Jenna called as I headed for the door. "Though, you know what they say about luck. It's when preparation meets opportunity." Her words, once seemingly supportive, now rang with a sickening double meaning. I nodded, not turning around, terrified my face would betray me. In my car, I put my phone on the dashboard and pressed play on the voice memo one final time. I listened to my sister's voice detail her betrayal as I drove toward an interview she'd already attempted to sabotage. By the time I pulled into the Riverfront Designs parking lot, something had crystallized within me. Beyond the hurt, beyond the shock, was a clarity I hadn't felt in months. I understood the playing field now. The players. The only question left was what I would do with this knowledge. I nearly collided with a delivery truck. My hands shook on the wheel. Twice I had to pull over. The voice memo played on repeat in my mind. Asterisk, I've always been jealous of her talent. We can't let her get established here. I called Riverfront yesterday. Asterisk somehow, I arrived at the sleek glass building. I sat in my car, breathing deeply, reapplying my lipstick. The woman staring back looked composed, yes, but her eyes held a new hardness. A steel. Maya was waiting for me in the reception area, her familiar freckled face breaking into a smile. "Anitra, so good to see you. Are you okay? You look a little pale." "Just interview nerves," I lied, forcing a weak smile. "Thanks again for recommending me." Maya leaned in, lowering her voice. "Listen, something weird happened. Someone called yesterday asking about you. Claimed to be a former colleague, had concerns. Grayson, our creative director, even mentioned it to me this morning." My stomach twisted. "Jenna, what did they say?" "Nothing specific," Maya said, frowning. "Just that we should verify your credentials thoroughly. Grayson thought it was strange enough to mention it to me, especially since I recommended you. Corporate sabotage happens, but usually for higher-level positions." I just nodded, trying to keep my expression neutral, even as Jenna's interference was confirmed. People can be surprisingly competitive. Maya shook her head, then grinned. "Well, it totally backfired. Grayson's now extra interested to meet you. He said anyone who inspires preemptive sabotage must be worth talking to." A small, desperate flame of hope flickered in my chest. Maybe, just maybe, Jenna's plan would fail. The interview room was bright, airy, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. Grayson Turner, tall with salt and pepper hair and trendy glasses, stood to greet me. "Anitra Taylor, a pleasure. Your work on the Riverside Hotel in Chicago really caught my attention." That ceiling installation was inspired. Despite everything, professional pride stiffened my spine. Thank you. That project definitely had unique challenges. For the next hour, I focused. I pushed thoughts of Jenna's betrayal aside and walked Grayson through my portfolio, my approach to sustainable design, my experience. Near the end, he leaned back in his chair. I should mention, he said, his gaze steady, we received a strange call yesterday. Someone claiming to have concerns about your work. I rarely mention such things in interviews, but it was unusual enough that I'm curious about your reaction. I took a deep breath. I appreciate your transparency. Without knowing exactly what was said, it's hard to address specific concerns. But I can tell you my departure from Hartman and Associates was purely economic. They laid off their 5 most recently hired designers when they lost several major accounts. Grayson nodded. That tracks with market conditions and, frankly, your portfolio speaks for itself. He closed my presentation on his tablet. Which brings me to the next step. We'd like to offer you a position as a senior designer. I blinked. Senior? Not junior? Your Chicago experience puts you ahead of our current associates. The salary would be $85,000 annually, with benefits and a quarterly project completion bonus. We'd need you to start in 2 weeks. Is that something you're interested in? The salary was $15,000 more than I'd made in Chicago. The position was a step up. And it was happening despite Jenna's attempt to sabotage me. Yes, I said, finally finding my voice. I'm definitely interested. Thank you. After finalizing details and signing preliminary paperwork, I walked to my car in a daze. The job offer should have been the highlight of my day, the solution to all my problems. Instead, it was overshadowed by the chilling revelations of the voice memo. As I sat in my car, my phone rang. Jenna. Her name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. Immediately. Taking a deep breath, I answered. Hey, how did the interview go? Her voice was bright, too bright, with false enthusiasm. For a split second, I considered confronting her, unleashing all my hurt and anger. But something stopped me. A strategic voice whispered, knowledge is power, and right now I knew far more than she realized. It was fine, I said, keeping my tone neutral. They seemed interested. Well, don't get your hopes up too high, she said, every word laced with poison. Regional firms can be very selective, but I'm sure something will work out eventually. Thanks for the encouragement, I replied, the words tasting bitter. Listen, I need to run some errands. See you at dinner. I ended the call. I couldn't go back to that house tonight. Not with this truth burning inside me. Not with the pretense of normalcy when everything had been revealed as a lie. Instead of driving home, I went to my bank. I withdrew most of my remaining savings, enough for temporary housing until my first paycheck. Then, a modest extended-stay hotel. Paid for a week in advance. That evening, curled on the bed with my laptop, I tried to make sense of it all. My phone buzzed repeatedly with texts from Mom and Jenna. Asterisk, where are you? When will you be home for dinner? Asterisk, I responded vaguely about meeting old classmates, needing space to process the interview. As night fell, I stared out at the city lights. This wasn't just about a job anymore. It was about reclaiming my narrative, my talent, my future. A part of me screamed for revenge, but a wiser voice urged justice. Jenna had built her success partly on my stolen ideas. She'd actively worked to suppress my opportunities. And my parents? They'd enabled it our entire lives. I opened a new document, typing furiously. This wasn't a revenge plot. This was a strategic retreat. A plan to establish boundaries, reclaim my professional identity, and ensure Jenna finally faced the consequences of her actions. By midnight, my next steps were mapped out. I would accept the riverfront position, but delay my start date by 2 weeks. During that time, I would gather more evidence, secure my position, and prepare for the inevitable confrontation. For the first time since hearing that voice memo, I felt a sense of calm purpose. I wasn't running away. I was moving forward on my terms. And Jenna had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I waited for Mom's text. They were all going to the mall. I needed 30 minutes. Alone. In that house. I drove back to my childhood home, key in hand, and slipped in silently. The familiar rooms felt different now, tainted by what I knew. I moved quickly, packing only essentials, clothes, professional documents, a few sentimental items. My furniture, my books, most of my possessions, they were just things. What I needed now was freedom. As I finished my room, a thought struck me. Jenna had admitted stealing my business plan years ago. Was there more evidence of her deception? Driven by this chilling hunch, I quietly entered the guest room where she and Tyler were staying. Snooping felt wrong, but I reminded myself what was at stake. After a careful search, tucked inside her briefcase, I found it. A folder labeled Green Home Initiative. Inside? Printouts of my original sustainable design concepts from design school, complete with my handwritten notes. Some pages had Jenna's writing overlaid, adapting my ideas for real estate. And next to it, an email chain. With Graham Hartman, my former boss in Chicago, dated 2 weeks before my layoff. The exchange read, "Jenna, as requested, I've reviewed the situation. While Anitra's work is excellent, she would indeed be included in any reduction if we needed to cut staff. I appreciate the heads up about your family's concerns regarding her career trajectory. Sometimes these difficult moments become redirections to more suitable paths. I'll keep this conversation in confidence, of course." My hands trembled. The layoff that had devastated me, that I'd thought was purely economic, had been orchestrated. Jenna had reached out to my boss, under the guise of family concern, to ensure I was among those laid off. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have ever imagined. This wasn't just recent sabotage. This was years of calculated undermining, disguised as sisterly concern. I took photos of everything, then replaced it exactly as I'd found it. In the kitchen, I left a brief note, taking some personal time to think. "I'll be in touch when I'm ready. Please respect my space. Anitra." No accusations, no revelations. Just enough to buy me time. At the extended stay hotel, I transformed my room into a command center. Laptop, evidence, a methodical plan for my new life. First, I formally accepted the riverfront position, requesting a 2-week delay. "Need to tie up some personal loose ends before beginning this new chapter," I wrote. Grayson approved immediately. Next, I discreetly reached out to former Chicago colleagues. Without revealing my suspicions, I probed about the layoffs. 2 separate conversations confirmed it. The decisions had seemed oddly specific, targeting certain employees despite their performance. My phone buzzed relentlessly with messages from my family. "Mom, asterisk Anitra, where are you? We're worried sick. Asterisk Dad, asterisk kiddo, call us. Your mother is upset. Asterisk Jenna, asterisk this is childish. Whatever is bothering you, we can talk about it." Asterisk I responded with minimal information, claiming I needed space. "I'm safe and will be in touch soon. Please respect that I need a few days alone." Their responses were telling. Mom quickly pivoted from worry to guilt. "After all we've done, taking you in, this is how you thank us?" Dad, though genuinely concerned, deferred to Mom and Jenna's interpretation. And Jenna's messages became increasingly controlling, demanding to know where I was, when I'd stop this ridiculous behavior. I went radio silent for 48 hours. During that time, I dug deeper into Jenna's business. I found her real estate firm heavily marketed its innovative eco-friendly approach, language lifted directly from my business plan. She'd even won a regional award, giving interviews about her original vision. The irony was sickening. I also uncovered concerning patterns in her transactions. Several property listings had questionable disclosures regarding environmental assessments, precisely the area where she claimed expertise. In one case, she'd withheld soil testing results. It wasn't about damaging her career, but these findings suggested her corner-cutting extended far beyond family. I made an anonymous report to the State Real Estate Commission, providing documentation. This was about accountability, not just revenge. As my second week away ended, I focused on Riverfront. I visited the office daily, setting up my workspace, meeting colleagues, immersing myself in the Meridian project. Everyone welcomed me warmly, impressed by my portfolio. Grayson even pulled me aside. I don't know what that caller was trying to accomplish, he said, but they did you a favor. Your work is exceptional, Anitra. We're lucky to have you. His words were a bomb, validating what I'd always known but allowed family dynamics to make me doubt. My confidence was soaring. By the end of 2 weeks, everything was in place. My presentation for Meridian was ready for Monday. I'd found a charming apartment near the office. And I knew exactly how to handle the confrontation. I called Mom on Friday evening, my voice calm, controlled. I'm ready to talk. Not at the house. I'd like all of you to meet me at my new office, Monday afternoon at 3. Your new office? Mom sounded confused. What are you talking about? We've been worried sick. Your sister is beside herself. I'm sure she is, I replied evenly. Monday at 3. I'll text you the address. Please make sure Dad and Jenna are there. This isn't negotiable, Mom. Monday at 3, or we don't talk at all. Hanging up, I took a deep breath. The plan was in motion. In 3 days, everything would change. Not because I sought revenge, but because the truth needed to finally see the light of day. Monday morning arrived, and I felt a clarity of purpose I hadn't known in years. I dressed meticulously in a tailored charcoal suit, an emerald blouse mirroring the green in my hazel eyes. This wasn't just professional attire, it was armor for the war zone ahead. My first official day at Riverfront Designs started with a team meeting. Grayson introduced me as their new senior designer, and Maya gave me an encouraging thumbs up across the table. By 10 a.m., I was settled, preparing for my presentation to Meridian Development Group. Lawrence Carter and his team arrived at 11, radiating the kind of confidence that comes from making multi-million-dollar decisions. As we shook hands, he gave my portfolio tablet an appreciative smile. Grayson tells me you've prepared something special for us, he said. I believe I have, I replied, launching into my presentation. For the next hour, I walked them through my vision for their eco-friendly residential community. Comprehensive designs, sustainable materials, innovative community spaces. These were evolved versions of my original business plan, the very one Jenna had stolen and built her reputation on. But mine went further, incorporating everything I'd learned in Chicago and all my research. This is exceptional, Lawrence said when I finished. It's exactly the fresh perspective we've been looking for. Most local firms are stuck in conventional thinking, but this. He gestured to my renderings. This is visionary. Thank you, I said, maintaining my composure despite the incredible internal validation. There's one more thing I'd like to discuss. Meridian will need a real estate partner for marketing and selling these properties. Someone who truly understands the unique value proposition of sustainable homes. Lawrence nodded. We've been interviewing firms, but haven't found the right fit. Do you have a recommendation? I might, I said, a subtle thrill running through me. If you're available at 3 this afternoon, I could make an introduction. He checked his calendar and agreed. As he and his team left, Grayson approached, impressed. That was masterful. Lawrence rarely shows that much enthusiasm, and you've already lined up a real estate connection. I just smiled. I believe in comprehensive solutions. The hours until 3 p.m. flew by in a blur. I arranged the conference room, setting up my laptop to display specific slides. At 2:45, Mom texted, "We're parking now. This building looks expensive." At 2:50, Lawrence returned, curious about the mysterious real estate contact I'd promised to introduce. I asked him to wait in Grayson's office, explaining I needed a private chat with the potential partners first. At precisely 3 o'clock, reception called. My family had arrived. I sent them to conference room B, took a deep breath, and went to meet them. Mom entered first, a mix of worry and indignation on her face. Dad followed, looking deeply uncomfortable in his rarely worn suit jacket. Jenna came last, her face composed, but her eyes darting around, taking in the prestigious office surroundings. Anitra. Mom started immediately. What is going on? 2 weeks without a word, and now this mysterious meeting? We've been sick with worry. Please take a seat, I said, gesturing to the table. I appreciate you coming. Of course we came, Jenna said, settling in with practiced grace. We're family. Though I must say, this dramatic disappearing act seems excessive, even for you. The subtle dig, which would have wounded me 2 weeks ago, now just solidified my resolve. I wanted you to see my new workplace, I said calmly. I've accepted a position as senior designer at Riverfront Designs. Today is my first official day. Mom's eyebrows shot up. Senior designer? But you just interviewed. You didn't tell us you got an offer. Dad leaned forward, a genuine smile replacing his discomfort. That's wonderful news, kiddo. Congratulations. Jenna's reaction was more measured, her smile not reaching her eyes. How unexpected. I thought you were still considering options. I was very clear about my priorities, I replied. This position aligns perfectly with my experience and goals. Well, Mom said, flustered by my composure, this explains your absence, I suppose. Though you could have simply told us instead of disappearing. Actually, I said, taking a seat across from them, my absence had another cause. 2 weeks ago, I received a voice memo from Jenna. A memo that was clearly intended for you, Mom. Not for me. The color drained from Jenna's face. Her eyes widened with the dawning realization of her mistake. What voice memo? Without a word, I tapped my phone. Jenna's voice filled the conference room. Mom, I need to talk to you about Anitra's interview today. I called Riverfront yesterday. As the recording played, I watched their faces. Mom clapped a hand over her mouth, eyes darting between Jenna and me. Dad's expression transformed from confusion to shock, then to raw anger. Jenna sat frozen, her carefully constructed facade crumbling with each damning word from her own mouth. When the recording ended, the silence was deafening. Dad was the first to speak. Is this true? He asked Jenna, his voice tight with barely controlled emotion. Did you try to sabotage your sister's job opportunity? Jenna's composure fractured completely. You don't understand. It wasn't like that. I was just concerned she was rushing into something out of desperation. And my business plan? I asked quietly. The one you stole in design school? Was that concern too? I didn't steal it, she protested weakly. I was inspired by it. That's different. I opened my laptop, displaying the photos of her folder, my original designs, her annotations. Inspiration doesn't usually involve direct copying or taking credit for someone else's original concepts. Mom tried to interject, girls, clearly there's been a misunderstanding. Jenna would never intentionally, Dad cut her off, his voice uncharacteristically firm. Just stop, Linda. You knew about this. You were part of that conversation in the recording. Mom fell silent, her face flushing crimson. There's someone I'd like you to meet, I said, standing up. I went to the door and gestured for Lawrence to join us. As he entered, I made the introductions. Lawrence Carter, CEO of Meridian Development Group. Lawrence, this is my family. And this, I nodded toward Jenna, is Jenna Taylor Morrison, the real estate agent I mentioned. Recognition flickered in Jenna's eyes. Everyone in local business circles knew Meridian Development Group and its CEO. This was potentially the biggest client opportunity of her career. And she was walking into it at the exact moment her deception had been exposed. Ms. Morrison, Lawrence said, extending his hand. Anitra tells me you specialize in eco-friendly properties. That's precisely what we're looking for. Jenna glanced at me, confusion battling with opportunity in her expression. She shook his hand automatically. Yes, sustainable housing is my passion. Wonderful, Lawrence continued smoothly, though I must say, the concepts your sister presented this morning were remarkably innovative. She mentioned they were evolved from initial work she did in design school. You must be proud to have such talent in the family. The implication was clear. Lawrence, whether intentionally or not, had just credited me with the original concepts Jenna had built her reputation on. Jenna's smile became strained, almost a grimace. Anitra has always been creative. I turned to Lawrence. I should be transparent, Lawrence. I invited my family here today to address some concerning issues regarding those very concepts we discussed this morning. Lawrence looked between us, sensing the thick tension. Is there a problem I should be aware of? Before I could respond, Jenna stood abruptly. Excuse us, Mr. Carter. This is a family matter that requires private discussion. Of course, he said smoothly. Anitra, perhaps we should reschedule our follow-up? Actually, I replied, I think it's important you hear this. Jenna's eco-friendly real estate approach was built on concepts she took from my business plan in design school. Concepts I've evolved and presented to you today. The room went silent. Lawrence's expression remained carefully neutral, but his eyes sharpened with keen interest. He was, after all, a shrewd businessman. I see, he said finally. Family business collaborations can be complicated. This wasn't a collaboration. Dad burst out, surprising everyone. According to that recording, Jenna took Anitra's work without permission and has been actively working to suppress her sister's career. As her father, I'm ashamed and appalled. Jenna turned on him, eyes wide. Dad, you don't understand. I understand perfectly, he interrupted. I've watched you two compete your entire lives, but I never imagined it had gone this far. Lawrence cleared his throat. Perhaps I should give your family some privacy. Before you go, I said, I want to be clear. I didn't arrange this meeting for revenge or to damage anyone's reputation. The work I presented today stands on its own merits, regardless of its history. And Jenna, her business experience is valuable regardless of how some of her concepts originated. Lawrence studied me for a moment, then nodded slightly, a glimmer of respect in his eyes. Integrity noted, Anitra. I will be in touch about next steps. He shook my hand and left, closing the door behind him. As soon as he was gone, Jenna whirled on me. How could you? Do you have any idea what this could do to my business? I didn't expose you, I said, my voice steady. You exposed yourself. When you recorded that voice memo. When you called my potential employer to sabotage me. When you stole my work years ago and built your reputation on it. I built my business through hard work, she snapped. Yes, I used some of your concepts, but I was the one who executed them. I was the one who took the risks. You were off playing designer in Chicago while I was building something real here. And that, I shot back, justified sabotaging my career? Calling my boss in Chicago, making sure I'd be laid off. Mom gasped. Jenna, you didn't. Jenna's silence was confirmation enough. Dad stood up, pacing. All these years, we thought you two were just naturally competitive. We never imagined. He looked at Mom. And you knew about this. You helped her undermine your own daughter. Mom's eyes filled with tears. I just wanted what was best for both of them. Jenna seemed so threatened by Anitra's talent. I thought if Anitra found a different path, something less competitive with her sister, they could both be happy. So you, I said quietly, decided what my path should be. Without my input. Without respecting my choices or my abilities. The truth hung heavy in the air. Decades of dysfunctional family dynamics suddenly exposed. What happens now? Jenna asked, finally, her voice small. Are you going to report me to the real estate board? Tell all my clients. I shook my head. I'm not interested in destroying you, Jenna. I just want to live my life and pursue my career without interference. The anonymous report about your disclosure practices was made because clients deserve transparency, not to hurt you personally. Her head snapped up. That was you. The commission is investigating me because of you. The commission is investigating you because of your actions, I corrected. Just like your current situation is the result of your choices, not my response to them. I stood up, gathering my materials. I have work to finish today. I've booked an apartment starting next week. I'll come by the house tomorrow to collect the rest of my things. Anitra, Mom began, reaching for my hand. Please, can't we talk about this? We're family. I gently withdrew my hand. Yes, we are. And that's why this hurts so much. Family is supposed to support each other, not sabotage each other. I need time and space to figure out what kind of relationship I can have with you moving forward. As I walked them to the reception area, Dad hung back. I had no idea, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I'm so sorry, Anitra. I should have seen what was happening. It's not entirely your fault, I replied. They were careful to keep you in the dark. Still, he shook his head. I'm proud of you. Not just for this job, but for how you handled this. You could have sought revenge, but you chose a different path. His words were a balm to the still raw wound of betrayal. Thanks, Dad. That means a lot. As they left, Jenna glanced back at me, her expression unreadable. For a brief moment, I thought I saw regret. Then she turned away, following our parents out of the building that housed my new beginning. I returned to my desk, emotionally drained, but strangely peaceful. The confrontation I dreaded was over. The truth was out. What came next would be challenging. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was standing on solid ground, building my life on my own terms. 6 months after that pivotal confrontation, I stood at the windows of my new office, watching autumn leaves dance across the parking lot. So much had changed. My promotion to design director came through last week, following the unprecedented success of the Meridian Eco-Community project. My small but stylish apartment finally felt like home, decorated with pieces that reflected my aesthetic, free from family expectations. But the most profound changes were internal. The journey from betrayal to rebuilding had transformed me in ways I never anticipated. In the immediate aftermath, I was a tsunami of emotions, rage that left me screaming into pillows, grief that ambushed me, paralyzing anxiety about trusting anyone ever again. For 3 weeks, I threw myself into work, collapsing into exhausted sleep. It was Maya who finally intervened, showing up at my apartment with takeout and genuine concern. "You're not okay," she stated simply. "And pretending you are isn't helping." That night, I finally broke down, telling her everything. Her suggestion for therapy was gentle but firm. "Some betrayals are too big to process alone," she said. She was right. Dr. Winters, a therapist specializing in family trauma, helped me understand that this wasn't just sibling rivalry gone wrong. It was a systematic pattern of undermining and gaslighting that had shaped my self-perception for years. "Your success," she explained, threatened the family narrative, your sister as the achiever, you as the dreamer. Your parents enabled this dynamic because it was comfortable, not because it was true or healthy. Slowly, I built a new support network. Colleagues became friends. I joined a local design association. I started a side project renovating furniture for a women's shelter, finding healing in creating beautiful spaces for others rebuilding their lives. As for my family, those relationships evolved in unexpected ways. Dad was the first to reach out meaningfully, a week after the confrontation, asking to meet for coffee. He came prepared with a letter, detailing all the times he'd seen my talent shine but had failed to advocate for me. "I thought staying neutral was the right thing," he explained, his voice breaking. "I never realized neutrality in the face of wrongdoing is just another form of harm." Our relationship slowly rebuilt on a foundation of honesty. He visits my office now, genuinely interested in my projects. When I restored an antique drafting table, he helped me reinforce the joints, our hands working together in his workshop, just like when I was a child. Mom was a more complicated story. Her initial reaction was defensive, insisting she'd only wanted peace. But over time, influenced by Dad's shift, she began to recognize the damage her enabling had caused. Our conversations are still somewhat superficial, but they're no longer filled with subtle comparisons or minimizations of my accomplishments. And Jenna? Jenna was the most surprising evolution of all. The Real Estate Commission investigation resulted in a 3-month license suspension and mandatory ethics training. Meridian Development Group ultimately chose another agency. The professional consequences she feared did materialize, but not through any vindictive action on my part. I'd expected anger, blame, perhaps even more sabotage. Instead, about 4 months after the confrontation, I received an email. Subject line: what I should have said years ago. Attached was a formal letter acknowledging her eco-friendly real estate approach was based on my original concepts. She'd sent copies to the State Real Estate Board, the Business Association, and several industry publications. The email ended with a personal note: "This doesn't fix what I did." Nothing could. But it's a start. When you're ready to talk, I'm ready to listen. It wasn't an explicit apology, but from Jenna, this public acknowledgement was a seismic shift. I needed time to process it. 2 weeks later, we met at a neutral coffee shop. The conversation was awkward, halting. Jenna looked different, less perfectly put together, more authentically present. "Tyler left," she said abruptly. "Said he didn't know who I really was anymore. Took the kids to his parents for a while." "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. I never wanted her children to suffer. She shook her head. Don't be. It forced me to look at myself. Really look at what I'd become. At what I'd done to you. She met my eyes directly. I was terrified of you, Anitra. Always have been. Your talent, your authenticity, everything seemed to come naturally to you. Nothing came naturally, I corrected her. I worked incredibly hard. You just never saw it because you were too busy trying to ensure I didn't outshine you. She nodded, accepting the harsh truth. I know that now. I've been talking to someone too, a therapist. Trying to understand why I felt so threatened by your success that I actively tried to prevent it. We talked for nearly 3 hours, peeling back layers of our shared history, examining the competition that had defined our relationship. No magical reconciliations, no tearful embraces, just two adults beginning the long, difficult process of rebuilding what had been broken for as long as we could remember. Family therapy followed, all 4 of us sitting uncomfortably in Dr. Winters' office, learning to communicate without the destructive patterns of the past. Progress was nonlinear, breakthroughs followed by setbacks, but slowly, incrementally, we began to forge new relationships based on who we actually were, rather than the roles we'd been assigned. Today, as I prepared for a family dinner, our monthly attempt at rebuilding connections, I felt neither the dread of early gatherings nor the naive hope for perfect resolution. Instead, I carried a grounded acceptance of our flawed, complex reality and the ongoing work it required. The most profound lesson of these 6 months wasn't about family dynamics or professional validation, though those were significant. It was about the quiet power of standing in your truth without being consumed by bitterness or the desire for revenge. Justice didn't come from ensuring Jenna suffered consequences equal to the pain she'd caused me. It came from breaking free of the narrative that had constrained me, from reclaiming my talent and worth regardless of anyone else's attempts to diminish them. My phone chimed with a text from Dad, on our way. Bringing that wine you liked last time. I smiled, gathering my keys and bag. The future remained uncertain, our family relationships a work in progress rather than a neatly resolved storyline. But I moved through the world differently now. Confident in my boundaries, clear in my worth, free from the need for external validation. The voice memo that had shattered my world had paradoxically been the catalyst for building a truer, stronger self. Not because betrayal makes you stronger, that's too simple a narrative. But because facing reality, however painful, opens possibilities that denial never could. As I locked my office door, I thought about all of you watching this. If you're struggling with family betrayal or discovering painful truths about those closest to you, know this. Healing isn't linear, and it certainly isn't about pretending the hurt never happened. It's about building a life where you're valued for who you truly are, whether that includes the people who hurt you or not. That's not just surviving betrayal. It's transcending it. I want to know, have you ever discovered someone close to you wasn't who you thought they were? Tell me your story in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to hear your experiences.